Have you noticed how much there is in life that is mysterious? You come across ideas you don't understand. For example, I'm told that neutrinos are the fundamental particles that make up the universe. That black holes are regions of space-time from which nothing can escape, not even light. And what, for goodness sake, is the Higgs boson? And that's just a tiny selection of the extraordinary subjects which the science programs on TV and on radio talk about. Never mind philosophy, culture, history, etc. Humanity nowadays knows such a lot, yet the more we learn, the more we find there is yet to know. Whatever else this account of the Transfiguration is meant to convey to us, mysteriousness must surely be the first thing. We are told that his appearance was changed, and as they looked, even his clothes shone with an out-of-this-world radiance. Also, it was as if Moses and Elijah, both dead for centuries, were actually there talking to him. Even God spoke, mysterious indeed. And then, as we are told, a cloud formed. Could anything be more mysterious? And that is perhaps the key. We fondly assume that this workaday, worrisome world is far removed from the joys and wonders of heaven. But maybe it isn't. Maybe eternity is only hidden, as if by a fog, only to break into view suddenly. The other day, I had to go to Lille from my house at Portinfer. When I started out, there was a thick sea mist. But when I got to Lille, the sun was out and everything was bright and sunny. Could it be that our lives are a bit like this? So fogged up with our worries that we can't see the bright rays of eternity through the mist, although they are there. According to Mark, just before the Transfiguration took place, Jesus had been talking to the disciples and was very explicit about the coming suffering and death. The reality of the cross was made plain to them, all too plain for Peter, who protested that this just couldn't happen, only to be rebuked by Jesus for looking at things with the minds of this world and not with the mind of God. Jesus' saving action was also to take place in a fog, but one of despair, hurt, envy, and anger. That was to prove death is deadly. Despite our loving Lord's accurate and fog warning, Jesus was turning his face towards Jerusalem. No wonder Peter was overcome by the situation. He just didn't know how to respond. Like most of us, I suppose, would have been. He was faced with trying to find something to do. His offer to make tents or shelters was perhaps a first century equivalent of, shall I make a cup of tea? Something to do when nothing else seems to be appropriate. There can be no doubt that the disciples' mountaintop experience was awe-inspiring. It's as if they were being given a glimpse of eternity to prepare themselves for what was to come. It was as if God, apart from confirming who Jesus was saying to Peter, James, and John, here's a glimpse of glory. Here's something to be amazed at, something to instill in your minds the reality of the eternal, something to buoy your spirit up, because you have seen glory, splendor, majesty, and beauty for yourselves. And to understand the experience, underline the experience, there came that heavenly voice saying, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." We should notice the point at which the voice came. They were already overshadowed by the cloud, and they knew from history that it had been long the Israelites' experience, that when God spoke, it was from a cloud. They must have remembered that Moses had experienced what meant to be overshadowed by God. Could God have been testing them, telling them that when the time came for Jesus to face what awaited him in Jerusalem, the events would be overshadowed by God? Wonderful and yet worrying, sustaining and yet suspicious, heartwarming and yet heart-wrenching. It was all very mysterious. They were in a place of longing and apprehension, of conviction and confusion, a place from which Jesus and his friends were to journey towards Jerusalem, which is a place to which we too must journey during the coming Lent, if we are truly his disciples. We need to keep company with the one whose glory we know. Keep company with the one who gave even his very self in the cause of that glory. Hold together the splendor and the despair. And when the tension is too much and the cost too hard to bear, remember that Jesus, the beloved Son, won through. Our knowledge of what happened at the cross should stir our hearts and minds to use every opportunity to care for each other and ourselves, for Jesus' sake, especially in the current very difficult times. According to Mark, Peter, James, and John kept this mountaintop experience to themselves, although they did discuss what to rise from the dead might possibly mean. But they couldn't make that leap of imagination and trust, which meant that they had to endure the storm that was about to come. I feel sure that although they did not know it until after the resurrection, by giving them a glimpse of glory, the transfiguration was God's way of inspiring them to undertake the work of spreading the gospel. God really does move in a mysterious way.